For decades, the global financial system has been shaped by one undeniable truth. If you wanted to trade internationally, you had to use the US dollar. The United States has maintained its grip on global commerce, ensuring that every nation, from the biggest economies to the smallest developing countries, has no choice but to rely on the dollar. But now, the BRICS nations are making it clear: enough is enough. They are looking for alternatives. They want a global trading system that isn't dominated by Washington. And this isn't just a political statement. It's an economic revolution that threatens to change the balance of power forever. Enter Donald Trump. When Trump saw BRICS making moves toward de-dollarization, he didn't just sit back. He retaliated with 100% tariffs, a direct warning to any country that dared to challenge the supremacy of the US dollar. He called it a matter of national security, framing it as an economic war that the US couldn't afford to lose. But here's the problem. When Trump made this threat, BRICS leaders didn't back down. Instead, they doubled down. Brazil's President Lula da Silva stood before the world and declared that BRICS would not be intimidated. No matter what Washington did, BRICS would continue pushing for an alternative to the US dollar. The stage was set. A global economic showdown had begun. But how did we get here? Why is BRICS so determined to break away from the dollar? And more importantly, can they do it? Let's find out. To understand why BRICS is fighting to end the dollar's dominance, we need to go back in time. For most of modern history, the US dollar has reigned supreme. This wasn't by accident. After World War II, the United States positioned itself as the center of the global financial system. The Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 ensured that most major currencies were tied to the US dollar, which, in turn, was backed by gold. This meant one thing: the United States controlled the world's money. Then came 1971. President Richard Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, making it a fiat currency, money backed only by the power and influence of the US government. But even without gold, the dollar's dominance continued. Why? Because the US used its military, economic, and political influence to ensure that oil and other key commodities were traded exclusively in dollars. This was the birth of the petrodollar system, an arrangement that forced countries to hold US dollars if they wanted to buy oil. With the petrodollar system in place, the US enjoyed a massive advantage over every other country. Washington could print dollars without worrying about inflation, while other nations had to earn dollars through trade. This created a permanent dependency on the US financial system. But BRICS wants to end that dependency. But why? What's wrong with the dollar being superior? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. For America, the dominance of the US dollar has been nothing short of a golden ticket. It has allowed Washington to print money without consequences, run up trillions in debt without collapse, and fund wars, infrastructure, and social programs at the world's expense. The privilege of owning the world's reserve currency means that America never truly faces the same financial struggles as other nations. But for the rest of the world, the dollar's supremacy has often been a weapon of control. Countries that don't comply with US interests find themselves sanctioned, cut off from global finance, and locked out of SWIFT, the banking system that facilitates international trade. If a country dares to challenge US policies, its economy can be crippled overnight. Take Iraq and Libya. Both nations attempted to move away from the dollar, pushing for oil sales in euros and gold instead. What happened next? Regime change, invasions, chaos. For decades, developing nations have suffered under dollar dependency. Their economies are forced to borrow in dollars, making them vulnerable to US interest rate hikes. The moment the Federal Reserve tightens policy, emerging markets collapse under the pressure of expensive debt. Meanwhile, the US keeps printing dollars endlessly, flooding the global economy with its artificial wealth. When inflation spirals out of control, Washington doesn't take responsibility. It shifts the blame onto other nations, accusing them of economic mismanagement while quietly devaluing its currency. This reckless financial strategy fuels market crashes, debt crises, and inflation shocks across the world, forcing developing countries to suffer the consequences of decisions made in Washington. But BRICS has had enough. They refuse to be hostages of America's financial empire and are now taking bold steps to escape the dollar's grip, ensuring a future free from U.S. control. This isn't just an economic battle. It's a fight for sovereignty, a fight to end financial slavery under the U.S. dollar. The wake-up call came in 2022 when the U.S. and its allies froze Russia's foreign reserves in retaliation for its actions in Ukraine. Moscow lost access to hundreds of billions of dollars overnight. This wasn't just a punishment for Russia. It was a warning to every other country. If you go against U.S. interests, we can cut you off. For BRICS nations, the message was clear. The dollar isn't just a currency. It's a weapon, and that's why they want out. So, BRICS isn't just talking about de-dollarization. It's actively working to make it happen. At the 15th BRICS Summit in 2023, Russian President Vladimir Putin called for the expansion of trade in national currencies. The goal? To remove the US dollar from the equation. BRICS nations are no longer just discussing de-dollarization. They are actively dismantling the system that has kept them dependent on the US dollar. China and Russia now conduct 80% of their trade in rubles and yuan, cutting Washington out of the equation entirely. India and the UAE have shifted oil transactions away from the dollar, proving that even the energy markets, once dominated by petrodollars, are changing. Meanwhile, Brazil and China have signed agreements to trade directly in their currencies, eliminating the need for dollar conversions and reducing their exposure to U.S. financial influence. But perhaps the most significant move comes from Russia and Iran, who are developing an alternative payment system that bypasses SWIFT, the Western-controlled financial network that Washington has long used as a weapon against nations that refuse to follow its rules. With BRICS expanding and major economies aligning against dollar dependency, the movement toward a multipolar financial system is no longer a distant possibility. It's happening now. Each new trade deal in local currencies weakens the dollar's grip, pushing the world closer to a future where Washington no longer dictates the terms of global commerce. The U.S. may resist, but the shift is already well underway. BRICS isn't stopping there. With the addition of Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE, the bloc has expanded its economic influence, adding major energy producers and rising financial hubs to its ranks. But Donald Trump isn't just watching from the sidelines. Recently, he made it clear, if BRICS nations tried to move away from the dollar, the U.S. would retaliate with 100% tariffs. We are going to require a commitment from these seemingly hostile countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar. But Trump's warning may have come too late. By the time he issued his statement, BRICS had already taken major steps toward financial independence. And if Trump follows through with these tariffs, they could backfire. Why? Because many BRICS nations are already less reliant on US trade than before. If Trump pushes too hard, he might accelerate the very thing he's trying to prevent, a faster shift away from the dollar. Russia's response was blunt. Any attempt to force countries to use the dollar would fail. The US is now facing a dilemma. Does it double down on economic threats, risking further division? Or does it adapt to the changing global landscape, recognizing that the era of dollar hegemony may be ending? The truth is, BRICS isn't just fighting for economic independence. It's fighting for a new world order. For decades, Washington has used the IMF, the World Bank, and the global financial system to maintain its influence. But BRICS is offering an alternative vision, one where nations trade on their terms, without the US acting as the gatekeeper. Yet the question remains, can BRICS dethrone the dollar? There are obstacles. But BRICS has made its stance clear. They will not stop their de-dollarization efforts no matter what. Despite threats from Washington, including Trump's 100% tariff warning, the bloc remains committed to reducing its reliance on the US dollar. This isn't just economic defiance. It's a direct challenge to America's financial empire. The message is simple. BRICS will not bow to pressure. The dollar's dominance is being dismantled, and Washington can no longer stop the world from shifting toward a new financial order. The US dollar is still the most widely used currency in global trade, and nearly 60% of all foreign exchange reserves are still held in dollars. Even China, the biggest challenger to US dominance, holds over billions in US debt. But history has shown that financial empires don't last forever. The British pound once ruled global trade, but after World War II, it collapsed under the weight of economic reality. Could the same thing happen to the dollar? BRICS isn't backing down. Washington isn't surrendering. One thing is certain. The global financial system is at a crossroads. The next move will decide who controls the future of money. Will BRICS succeed in breaking the dollar's grip? Let us know in the comment section. Do you think the US will use its full power to maintain control? But will it succeed? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and share the video, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our African videos. It's the best way to support us.